Take a deep breath. Deep conversations are starting.
Hi everyone, welcome to Deep Conversations by Breath Hub. We like it calling deep conversations because as we breathe deep, we connect with life on a deeper level. I'm with Michael, a shining, amazing man sitting in front of me. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mighty kind welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I would first of all like to hear your story about how you ended up with breathwork and, how your journey started and where are you right now and when did it all begin?
Yeah, sure. My mom was someone that really got me into, deeper concepts on a spiritual level. And through my practicing of whether it was athletics or entertainment, the arts, that kind of thing, I always recognized the power of the breath, for endurance, for athletics. And then, I got into Alexander technique through performance and I was just really captivated by it. And it was probably, I'd been doing yoga since I was like 17, 18 years old too.
Wow.
So I'd been in that field for quite a bit, kind of like hidden, at that time. It wasn't so much prominent in athletics or, it was like a niche thing. So, I recognized then that there was more to our body than kind of what we've been led on or what we've learned. And through the years that developed more into my own personal practice. And then maybe 6 years ago or so, I started getting this strong desire to change the base level of like my life in terms of my profession and purpose. And I think it was around that time that a buddy was kind of like, hey man, you should check this guy out. He's crazy, like you're kind of crazy. And I think you would dig him. And he's talking about Wim. And at the time I didn't know who Wim was. This is, 6+ years ago or so. And I looked him up and I was like, man, this is wild. It's my kind of
Sweet
thing.
Insane.
Well, so we have this saying, like, we like to bring the woo-woo to reality. And one of the things with especially breath work, but also like a lot of holistic practices, there's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of charlatanism and there's a lot of just like woo-woo for the sake of woo-woo. And I don't dig that. Like I come from an athletic background. I come from a physical place. And it's like, I don't dig that. To me, like the earth, this physical plane is where you test your theories. It can't just be all heady and philosophical bullshit. You have to test your theories to see what actually works and what doesn't. So I noticed I just kept going back to the breath and going back to the breath. And then I saw this guy that was doing these feats that were incredible. Kilimanjaro in shorts, Everest in shorts, breaking the record. I come to find out later after meeting him and spending a fair amount of time with Wim and his family and everything. He was like, hey man, I didn't want to do all that stuff, but I knew people wouldn't listen. And I was like, hey man, I dig it, and then he did the endocrine study or the endotoxin study at Radboud University. Anyway, so I started following him for a while. And like I said, I've been doing yoga, some forms of breath work, whether it was, Kundalini a little bit later, different type of pranayama, depending on the yoga teacher that I was, studying with, that kind of thing. And I swear to God, in the first 3 minutes of doing his breath work, I had touched that level of stillness that took me years to do with regular, just simple meditation. And I realized like, I'm a physical person. I'm an active person. I need an active form of meditation. And the breath was just like it.
Boom.
Immediately. And then I started getting it. Like I said, I'm not a woo-woo guy. So I was like, man, what the fuck is going on? Something's happening deep within,
Yeah.
I need to find out the science behind this. I need to meet this guy. I need to meet his family. I need to see if he's the real deal. Yeah. And I met him and it was like,
he's
oh
amazing.
My God. And then I climbed mountains and it was like seeing him. How can I put this? Seeing him deal with people that are probably far less capable than what they think, but also what they've been kind of led to believe, transform and be able to do feats physically that they've never been able to do is transforming.
Yeah,
We climb.
I think besides all breathwork and all that, he's such a strong-minded guy. Like he's very unique.
His story is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
You know, seeing how we went through personal tragedy.
Yeah.
To deal with struggles with family.
Yeah.
To go through just the anguish that he went through, you know, in his personal life. To always be that shining example. You know, I talked to his kids. This is where I really fell in love with the guy. Like he's so special to me. Like I said, I climbed Mount Hood with him. That was like that was the third time I met him, I think, and spent time with him. And that was probably, I don't know, a week or so, something like that. And the last feat was climbing Mount Hood, which is a glacier. So like 11,000 feet or so. It's high enough, but it's not crazy high. And we started early in the morning, and what I saw, what he did with one of the instructors, that I don't know how else to put this. He wasn't as capable as anyone else. By far the least capable, physically, by far. And everyone's there for Wim. He's this magnetic guy, right? So even people that were on the mountain that weren't part of our group was like, oh man, Wim, yeah. You know, he's a celebrity at this point. And he stayed with this guy that was incapable before this, or so he thought, the whole way, to where he's encouraging him, he's doing breathwork with him, he's going up the mountain, he's using different metaphors to just climb this mountain of life, what ended up to be, you know, this guy's, I don't know, vision of himself or journey. And he's like, we're just going there, we're just going there, we're just going there, we're just going there, and broke this mountain down to a point where it was scalable. You saw his life transform. And he was the least capable out of anybody, and we're all there for him. So anyway, we get to the top of the mountain, whatever, and he just screams out, like with tears in his eyes, I climbed the fucking mountain! Everyone gathers around him and is like lifting this guy up. And to me, that like embodied a leader to me.
Yeah.
Someone that's the most capable, that takes the least capable, shows them the light that's within them, shows them their potential, and brings them up.
Yeah.
And then joins the whole crew. And now this dude's a part of this crew, and he's an ambassador to go out.
Yeah.
Like, that was so special. And then I met his family, and it was just, you know, pile, whatever, of stories, of inspiration, of these moments where it just really, it solidified who I had wanted him to be, you know? And part of that was like me going into it. And, you know, you're in these environments where it's like, I guess similar to like a Tony Robbins or like, I don't know, Deepak, or, you know, these, take your pick out of any, whatever, you know. And I know that when you're in those environments, I've been in plenty of them, you're on this high.
Yeah.
So you want to believe, you know, it's cultish in a way.
Yeah.
And I really was,
real.
Yeah. And I was really hesitant to like put my time, my energy, for lack of a better word than faith or whatever, but it would be time and energy into this thing. And man, it blew me away every single path. And I would try and talk myself out of it because I was switching my life. You know, I was going from athletics to performance to, and prior to this had been like my most successful years performance-wise. But I felt a void in my heart, and I was like, man, I felt like lack of purpose after a bit. And, you know, a lot of people are big on happiness, and I was too for a time, and I started to recognize like happiness doesn't necessarily come without purpose.
No.
Purpose can lead you to happiness. Happiness rarely leads you to purpose.
Yeah.
And I started like looking, man, how can I help? How can I make a difference? Like, what am I seeing in the public sphere that, in my opinion, I see people can use? And I started seeing all these like exogenous healing things. You need this outside of yourself. You need this outside of yourself. And that intrinsic, it didn't make sense to me. It never has.
Yeah.
And then I met this guy that has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that we can access deeper levels of ourselves that we never thought were possible and change our physiology. And now there's science to it.
Yeah.
That's my kind of guy that like stands up to all of it and says, I'm the guinea pig. Test me. I'll prove it to you. Like it's a noble pursuit, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. And we're on the same path with that because I started breathwork like around 25 years ago. And it was my own need. I was a shallow breather and I just needed that deep, deep connection. And I knew it. It's like I was meditating and I was doing yoga, and I knew that I needed something deeper because I was trying hard to, you know how it is, like deeply connect with life, but I didn't have the tool. And the first time I started breathing, like mouth breathing, conscious connected breathing, the whole physiology changes, the whole chemistry changes. And the deeper I started breathing, the deeper I started connecting with life. We're on the same page because I was not that lucky meeting someone who is coming from a scientific background like him. I met all these teachers whom I've been asking questions like, because my background is also science. Mm-hmm. And I've been asking these questions because you do one session and you're like this, and you do another session, you're throwing up and all this, stuff happened. And I was like, why is this happening? And the whole explanation was like, some emotional transformation.
I can't stand that.
And I'm like, but what's happening? But what's really happening? And they're like, you're transforming this. And then I was like, okay, I want to research and I want to learn about it. And I read more than 100 respiratory books and just searching. And then I met your Wim Hof is my teacher, Peter Litchfield, who is the head of breathing sciences faculty. And he's this, I see the same commitment to humanity in both of them. So it's kind of like I can fully connect with, while you were speaking about Wim Hof, how he's, he just doesn't like people like, who have a purpose. I can just have myself inside the story as well. Like those kind of people, I think we don't care about who we are helping or who we are with, as long as you are just fulfilling your purpose and you just are connected with humanity. I think that's what you see in Wim Hof, and also that's what Peter Litchfield has, and I think that's what all real teachers have. Like Dr. DeMartini is also my friend and teacher. Like his commitment to humanity, like what Wim Hof does on another level, on the mind level. I've seen John work with a client in a course, in a seminar for 4 hours, 4 freaking hours. Like he wouldn't let him go, and he was like, I want you to get it. I want you to get it. So it's basically that human love. And that's just, beyond words. And yeah, I'm happy that
I think that's beautiful.
We have the chance to talk about it because this is it. This is the whole thing. I mean, this is, I believe, is the meaning of life. A human touching a human and a human helping a human. And that's true leadership, and that's true. Yeah, and when it's scientifically backed up, it's just brilliant. So at the end, I understood what's happening. We're going into hypocapnia and
I was just about to get into that.
So it's now. I've researched so much on it. Now I know what's happening in our brain, in our body, in our blood. It's like
I remember going into. You get tetany, right? And like for those that listen and that don't, I truly appreciate. Your approach to the breath and wanting to learn more about the science, wanting to learn more about, you're going to learn about your biology because you have to learn about your physiology and how it affects it.
Chemistry, biology, physiology, all of it.
Totally, right. So I remember sitting in one of these classes, I forget what kind of holotropic breathing I was doing. Anyway, so someone's going into tetany, right? And for those that are listening, tetany it's kind of like lobster claws. It's almost like when your body cramps, but it's not painful. But you're changing your physiology. And essentially what it is when, you're dropping your CO2 levels to a point where the hemoglobin in your blood is holding on to the oxygen, the O2.
Too much oxygen, yeah.
Right. And you can cramp up like that, right? So this was happening in one of these classes.
It's actually not too much oxygen. What happens is the carbon dioxide goes low.
It's the depletion of CO2.
Depletion of CO2. And because there's depletion of CO2, there is a Bohr effect.
The Bohr effect, yep.
What happens is you don't have enough oxygen released in the cells, so it's kind of like a shock in the body and the brain. And there's a whole scientific explanation.
Well, the thing is that it sounds counterintuitive, and when you see like the hemoglobin curve, you can see it. But it's actually when oxygen is released in your body, O2, the Bohr effect, essentially, O2 is only released in the presence of carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So carbon dioxide gets a bad rap in terms of the breath and inflammation and stuff, and it is a cause of inflammation. But that's on us. Like it's when our nervous system gets out of play that we're constantly in a sympathetic or a fight or flight state where CO2 levels are fucked with. And I curse a lot. I apologize.
It's fine.
Anyway, it's because of carbon dioxide. CO2 is the driver for breath. It's not oxygen. It's the levels of carbon dioxide. So when you deplete the CO2 levels in the blood, the hemoglobin holds on to the O2.
Yeah.
So it's not, that's why you cramp, because it's not getting in there. So there's a scientific physiological effect that's happening. And the thing that really got to me was it's like, those are your spirits. I was like, oh man, I'm out. Like, I love you, but I'm out. Like, I'll go do this on my own type thing. And then I researched more and more. And then Patrick McEwen was actually a huge influence on me. I started researching him, and then I joined the Oxygen Advantage team as well. And his research with the Butico Clinic and with Oxygen is just incredible.
Fabulous, yeah.
It's incredible. So we started, diving deep into the science. And I was starting to realize that, like, oh my God, this to me is where like the spirituality and the physiology meet.
Exactly. I think this is like one of the biggest messages we can give to people. It's like breathwork is the science of well-being. It is the science of well-being, like on all levels. And that's why for the first time in your life, you were probably like fully in silence and calm. Like what I say to people is, when you meditate, the more you meditate, your psychology starts shifting and something happens, with, your mindset and psychology. That's why your physiology gets affected. But with breath work, your physiology changes, like your chemistry changes with breath work, moment to moment, with conscious breath work, with different techniques. Because your chemistry and your physiology changes, then your psychology changes. It's like kind of like the opposite. With meditation, It's all about psychological. It's all about if your psychology changes, then you can get well. But with breath work, you can get well first. Mm-hmm. I think psychology is a byproduct of physiology anyway. Once you are well, when you're physically well and healthy, then you are already also, psychologically healthy. But if you're not physically healthy, if you have, chemical problems in the body, dysfunctional breathing habits, physiological problems, even though you feel great, you're going to go back to that horrible state. It's like, I think it starts with physiology, and that's why many people are having a hard time starting meditation or deepening their meditation practice, because they don't get conscious about breathing, and they don't get the importance of breathing. It's like, first, we need to be working on our breathing. First, we need to figure that out, consciously breathe, and then you can dive into different levels of meditation.
Physiology far predates psychology.
Yeah.
And we're designed. I mean, one of the new studies that they just did with, where was it? Wayne State University in Detroit, I believe, or outside of Michigan, Detroit and Michigan somewhere. But they did the study on the brain where they sent women to an MRI and an fMRI. And what they saw that with the breathwork, he was able to enter the paraaqueductal gray area of the brain. That's the deepest part of our brain, part of the autonomic nervous system that we're not supposed to be able to touch. And they saw that he could activate that. That's the center of pain killing. That's our endocannabinoid system. That's our endo-opioid system. It's the place for happy hormones to be released. That's the control center for pain modulation. And we're able to access that naturally under our nose.
With our breath, yeah.
And you look at the pharmaceuticals and like all of the I shouldn't say all of them. A lot of the medicines are trying to access that.
Yeah.
And that's, that the endo-opioid system, we have, those systems within us, whether it's, you can get it exogenously somewhat through cannabis by smoking cannabis. We can release that ourselves. We have an endocannabinoid system, cannabis, cannabinoid. We have that within our brain that regulates mood.
Yeah.
Just with breath and
Yeah, and
cold,
why do you
know?
think it's still like, I mean,
Because you can't make money out of it. It's free.
I mean, when you look at when you look at what breathwork can do, especially with, when it's used scientifically, and still the number of people who are using it, I think that's insane.
I have a saying. I get a little Boston with it, because if that's the case, then we don't need daddy. You know what I mean? If you can handle your shit on your own, you don't need daddy. And the people in power, they want you to need daddy.
Yeah, that's basically it.
There's no money in it. What money is a pharmaceutical pill to you when you can do it
on your own? Yeah.
I'm not saying it heals everything. I'm not saying it's a panacea. That's a big misconception, misunderstanding for all this shit. A bunch of holistic stuff, whatever.
I think what we can say, especially like symptoms that are related with hypocapnia and dysfunctional habits are like well-known symptoms. There are more than, I think, 200 symptoms like ADD, ADHD getting triggered, some attention deficit problems, migraine, body pain, fatigue, and all that. Like they're already scientifically proven, well-known symptoms due to problems in the respiration. I don't mean problems in the lungs, but dysfunctional breathing habits, hypocapnia, hypercapnia related. Those can definitely be healed and those can definitely be eased. But other than that, the body is such a complex system. I don't think we can ever say something like this method heals these all.
No, it's a tool in your tool belt.
And many symptoms, especially psychological symptoms people are experiencing, are breath-related symptoms. I tell people like the symptoms you're having is just chemical symptoms. You're just having all those anxiety, panic attack, stress because of the change in your chemistry. You're going into respiratory alkalosis without knowing it.
Yeah.
That's why you're feeling anxious. It's not a psychological problem. It's a chemical problem. And that can be eased. It's like...
We're seeing this in schools too.
Yeah.
With kids, way more mouth breathers.
Yeah.
You'll notice this in the orthodontist sector too. Mouth health is dramatically affected by how we breathe.
And a lot... ADD, ADHD, attention
totally,
deficit,
and that's from mouth breathing. That where you're talking about the respiratory alkalosis. I mean, that's the effect.
Yeah, and
what we're also seeing,
deep breathing and over breathing.
What we're also seeing too. Patrick has been really big on this since the corona happened, and people are more, on Zoom on their computers more. We're starting to see computer-induced asthma because you're sitting down, you're kind of like slunched over. You're blocking off access to your diaphragm, and you're also breathing high in your chest, and you're also being stimulated by this screen, which puts you in a sympathetic state, a heightened inflammatory state anyway. So people are getting more asthma from being in front of the computer more. And what you're talking about, the physiology leads to the psychology. Yeah, we need to understand how to breathe better so our minds work more optimally.
Yeah. I mean, how I see it is one day, I think people will get it very soon. Like, I think breath work will be bigger than,
a decade away.
bigger than meditation one day, once people understand that it is the scientific way. This is the scientific way. You can just change your whole physiology, chemistry, psychology, all at the same time. Yeah, it's just amazing. If there was one thing you would like humanity to understand and get, what would that be?
Breathe out of your nose. No. Yeah, that is one thing. I think right now, I think it's important to understand that, like, we're in this together and we have different opinions and we have different viewpoints, and that's always going to be the case. And thank God, because different viewpoints drive different viewpoints, and I think the more that we're able to discuss the gaps between us, the more we can close those gaps. And I think right now there's so much that is very divisive. There's a lot that is, I think, tearing at the fabric of how we operate. And the more that we can come together and have discussions and get together on things like this, like breathe with somebody, go on a hike with somebody, I think the better off our society will be. I do. I think it's a culmination of several different ideas that make us who we are, and that's a wonderful thing. And the more that we isolate and, kind of point fingers at another's opinion as other, enemy, something that is outside of yourself is irresponsible.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can all have our own ideas and the way we see things, and we can still accept and appreciate other people's ideas. I usually tell people, like, this is my life, this is my purpose. It doesn't mean that this is the best way, or this is the, this is the best way of doing things. Like, everybody has their own ways, and I think appreciating and having respect for each other. And I like what you said, like, we're in this thing together. I think that's kind of like the biggest message the world needs right now. It's kind of even like a calling, get it. We're in this thing together. Like, we'll go through this whole thing together, or we'll just smash together.
Yeah. I think common cordiality too is something that's been lost. Like, just being cordial to your neighbor. You don't have to agree.
Yeah.
But that I don't know. I have a lot of different ideas on how people treat each other, and like, boundaries are important, and knowing where you stand, knowing who stands with you is very important, and also just courtesy is also important. Yeah. I think respect is something that we can start to put higher up on the pedestal of values.
Yeah. And one more question, because I see lots of people, more and more people trying to understand what their purpose is. Like, what's my purpose? What's the meaning of life? And because we already talked about it, you also know and understand the importance of purpose. I think without having a purpose, you can't live a fulfilling and inspired life. It's like purpose gives meaning to our lives. It's like the mean, it's our center. How did you came up to that point? Because I know there are a lot of people who are searching, and most of my students are kind of like, how do you know it? It's like, how do you know what your purpose is? This whole question, because it's not easy to teach, I think.
Yeah. It's a great question, and it's also something that I don't think everybody accesses.
Yeah, so that's why it was like, how was your own journey?
Yeah.
And when were you like, okay, I'm connected with my purpose. I know what my purpose is. When did that happen, and how?
I would spend a lot of time like in silence by myself often. I think even like from whenever I like being in groups, I like being part of groups. But I also liked a lot of time by myself, just by myself. I spent, one of the things I love about WIM, whatever, you'd go to the woods. We had woods behind our house. That's where I would like run away to, and I'd like, quote unquote, run away from my parents. I'd go to the woods. I spent a lot of time by myself and just adventuring as well. And I know that's a very, not everyone gets to do that. And I understand that. And I think that's also a big part of perhaps a bigger agenda. I could be getting into conspiracy theory here, but a lot of our attention is diverted away from ourselves. And I think that's very detrimental to understanding your purpose. I think time with yourself and time adventuring with others helps develop this sense of like, oh, where can I fit in? Like the ikigai thing, what your life areas culminate into something that is tangible that you can do, that fills these boxes of purpose, of helping, of your own, filling up your own cup for healing, health. I think adventure in time to process that is a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's really, really important to understand that the emptiness people feel inside themselves is because they couldn't find their purpose. And I think even the word purpose it's kind of like underestimating this. It's kind of like you said, connecting with who you are, and mainly like maybe centering to who you really are, because we're in 21st century, I think, is all about conditioning. People are so much conditioned on should do this, shouldn't do this, life should be like this, and it should be lived like this. And And people are lost inside of that, and spending time with yourself, meditating, although it's hard and we need breath work and all that, just spending time with yourself, trying to understand who you are, connecting and centering. I think that's why breath work is very important, because I was there, like I was where you also have been speaking about, like in my 20s, there was this whole emptiness in my system, although everything seemed like everything was working. But one morning I woke up and I looked at my life, and my life looked like this perfect picture. And I couldn't see myself inside of it, because I was so conditioned into how my life should be and who I needed to be in order to be happy and all that. I couldn't literally see myself inside that story. And I was like, something is wrong. I did everything I was told to do, living by the book. And I thought that would bring me happiness, but I was like this feeling horrible, feeling lost. And I didn't see any meaning. And I was even thinking like maybe I should commit suicide. People who think of committing suicide don't, but it's kind of like coming up to my mind. And I was like, there's something wrong with this. And that was the time when I started yoga and meditation, because I knew I could handle that myself. Like I was like, I'm going to either find what this is all about. I'm going to either, figure this out myself, or I can't. So I think the first thing for, young people and for anybody who feels like this emptiness, first of all, no drug, no psychologist, nobody can fill that space. Like I need to fill that space myself.
You're hitting on a point that
you need to go on that journey yourself. It's not gonna, nobody can help you with that. It's like just you and just you. Like whenever that happens, I think the wisest step I took was, like you said, just staying alone. I left everybody and I was like, I want to spend some time with myself. And I started meditating. I went to India and all that, and Vipassana, and like truly like stayed with myself for months. And then, with breath work, deepening my breathing, I was able to connect with myself more and more. And it's kind of like the moment I am centered with myself, the moment you get into a place of I am that I am, beyond all that conditioning, should do this, like this is it, I'm this, and this is the life I want, and I'm just this, then there opens up the purpose path. It's kind of like people think without connecting with themselves, they could just find their purpose, like with doing some exercise. It's not going to happen like that. It's like the first step is, you are the one who's going to fill the emptiness. And whenever you fill the emptiness with yourself, true self, not the self you're, trying to become, but the way you are, I am that I am, then I think you awaken to your purpose.
You hit on 2 points that are really like near and dear to my heart. And I'll go into a story that is like very personal to me from my past. And seeing the results after it are exactly what you're talking about. You wanted to go within yourself. So there are 2 things. One, you used a couple words in there about like should, could, would. Any of the ood words are guilt manipulation words. And when someone's telling you the oods, really examine them, because what they're saying is you need something outside of yourself. So careful of those whenever you hear those. Oh, you should be doing this. You could be doing this. They're guilt manipulation words. And you'll notice you'll feel terrible when you hear this stuff. So anyway, so that was the first one where I started like recognizing, oh, this stuff is within me. I am the gatekeeper of my own inner being. It's not these should do this, you should be doing that. It's not that. It's within me. So I had to find it. So when I was I think I was 17. At the time. And I grew up playing baseball. And a kid at that time that I grew up playing against for a long time, we had become like friendly rivals. He was very good. And I was good at baseball. I was very, I was good. And I remember at the time, like we were always kind of playing in summer leagues for state championship. He was one of the best on his team. I was one of the best on my team. We came together. He went to Florida Atlantic, which is a huge baseball school, started as a freshman. I went to West Virginia University, so we were good, okay? So we're the championship game for our league in the summer, and he's playing left field. Normally he played third, but for this school, it was a top 15 in the country school for baseball. So the coach was like, do you want to play third? Or do you want to play left field and you'll start? So of course you're going to play left field and you start. Well, this was at Belmont High School, not too far from here. We're in Boston. Belmont High is probably like 15, 20 minutes or so. And they were doing construction on the football field, which abutted the baseball field. So there wasn't a fence there in left field anymore because they were doing construction. So he's in left field. So it's ideal situation. Bottom of the last inning. We're down by 2. There are 2 runners on base, and I'm up. So I get a nice pitch, and I drive this ball to left field. Brandon goes back. That's his name. He's running. He dives forward like a dive. Center fielder comes. He slides to go and catch the ball. They collide. Brandon ends up crushing his larynx and dies there, suffocates and dies on the field. And it fucked me up. I didn't know how much it messed me up until years later, but it messed me up.
Yeah. And
at that time, again, I was in high school. I was like recruited. I wanted my dream at that time was to go and play pro ball. That's all. That was talk about purpose. That was my soul. So after that, I felt like it was tough to pick up a bat again. Yeah. That kind of thing, because I'd felt in some way that I had contributed to this respected friend that became a friendly rival that I had in some way attributed to his death. And I saw how much that messed up his family. I saw how much that messed up his teammates. And I held a lot of that guilt. Mm. When I went back to high school, this was the summer, they brought me in a few times to be like, go see a therapist, go to a doctor, take these, that kind of thing. And I had always denied it. Like, I don't want that. I have to figure this out myself. I have to go deep within, one, to heal. I didn't know at the time, to heal and forgive. But that's what I had to do. And I it was a search. I went out and I searched. And I remember very specifically, because I was like, no, I want to do this. I want to figure this out. I was almost judged or chastised or something for it, And also in high school, and I don't care, I still do, I smoked cannabis. And that was one of the ways that I was able to calm my system down. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't know breath work at that point. I was 17 years old. I was still probably, I don't know, maybe, when did I start yoga? I think I started when I went to Florida, which was probably 18 or 19, maybe a year or two after that. I think I said 17 before, but it was probably a year or two after that. And that was part of my search, is to go deep, whatever. But I remember very specifically just feeling isolated because I didn't want to do what people were like, you should do this. Yeah. And I'm 37 now, however, 20 years later after that, just recognizing all of it and seeing, I'm so grateful that I did. I'm so grateful that I went through it myself, that I went through that trauma. I went through those valleys deeply and felt them to be able to heal and forgive, and it was pretty beautiful. I was doing this seminar at, I have a strong affinity for martial artists. Mixed martial arts in particular, I think, is probably the most extremely athletic sport that you can do. Yeah. And I have an affinity for them. So I train some of them with breath. And I have a close buddy that trains at a very high-profile gym. Shout out to Peter Barrett. He's got a fight coming up. I love you, Pete. I went to his gym, which is very powerful. Joe Lozon is an MMA legend, and he's not too far from here in Bridgewater. And a kid, 20 years old, I say kid. What's up, Danny? He's wearing this shirt, Brendan Grand Invitational, Wrestling Invitational. And I went up and I was like, hey man, what's up? And, I'm coming in as this instructor to this weird type thing. So I'm, and I know how I look. I'm a bearded dude with long hair. So, I get the Jesus appearance, whatever. So I'm coming in with it, and he's like, oh, hey, how you doing? And I was like, what's up with your shirt? And he's like, oh yeah, I got this like a couple years ago. And I was like, do you know Brendan or anything? And he's like, Brendan, he's like, no, I'm 20. And I was like, well, that would make sense. He like probably died before you were born. So I went into this whole story, and it was this serendipitous moment where like all of this healing, and you talk about purpose. I'm finding my purpose more and more with this help and stuff. And I'm these, and he's got a shirt on, and it was one of those,
Wow.
how they, in
No
E.T.,
coincidence.
how they have the little, what were they, Skittles or Reese's? How they had the Reese's. I look at the universe as giving you little Reese's.
Exactly.
And to me, I was like, oh man, that's so beautiful. And then I looked up and I was like, I hear you, dude. you know. But it was like there were been moments like that where I was like, exactly what you said. I have to go find this out for myself.
Yeah. You know what? While you were speaking about it, you know what I've been thinking. I think the need to belong to a group is what keeps us, what keep all of us from being ourselves. It's like, if you wanna, I mean, for anybody listening, I think if you wanna really find yourself, find your purpose, who you really are, you have to be able to leave the whole world and let the inner voice, be louder than the outer voice, and let the need to belong. Just leave it. Like, you don't need to belong. Like, because it's kind of like a test. We either belong to ourselves or we belong to the community or the conditioning. So it's kind of like you can't be in both of them. You can't belong to a group of people. I mean, you can be a leader of your own crew. Mm-hmm. You can be a leader of your own thing. But it's kind of like belonging to a group of, conditions. It just doesn't happen. It's like I think that's real bravery. Like just turning your back and you're, even though they're judging you or saying you should be doing this and you shouldn't be doing this, just going further and doing whatever you feel like doing is such a bravery. And that's kind of like the biggest step people can take. I don't know if everybody can do that, but it's like...
I think a lot of people fear the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I love Brene Brown, and I think she has a really great idea that like nothing courageous, nothing brave happens without vulnerability.
Yeah.
It goes against the definition of it. And I think once you get into those uncomfortable, situations where you are vulnerable, a lot of people tend to just go with whatever is the least resistant, whether they believe it or not, because they don't want the flack.
Yeah.
And I think you hit on something. You're talking about the individual groups or the smaller groups. I think the more you become empowered in yourself, in your ideas, in your beliefs and philosophies, and then put that into action, you find people of like, and yes, your circle does get smaller, but it gets stronger.
Yeah. Or maybe it is renewed, It's like once you leave a group and then you find yourself, and that's kind of like the whole process. I think it was an amazing conversation. Thank you. I can go on and on for hours. Huh?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for having me here. Everyone in the booth too. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Yeah. And to our listeners, thank you for listening to us. I loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for being here.
Truly a pleasure. It was an honor to get the invite.
See you in the next episode.